the reason why we were so afraid is quite apparent as we witness the
hello everybody. Thank you again for joining us, and once again, happy Mother's Day to all of you mothers out there, and to all of us who had a mother. I want to remember my own mother at this moment. Her name was Gilda. She made her transition from bodily life, and my sister Sarah is here, so she's Sarah's mother as well. She made her transition from bodily life in 2013, so it's been a decade now. And my mother was a great mom, and I always remember that as she got older, like when she turned 60, she had a little personality change, and she actually got braver and more relaxed, it seemed, and a little more fearless. She had been kind of fearful in her younger years, but she got bolder when she turned about 60. She actually got on an airplane and flew out to San Francisco to see me. I think she was 60 when she did that. That was the first airplane she'd ever been on in her life. She was so excited when she walked off that airplane. And she used to read almost everything that I wrote and put out in Miracles Monthly. She would tell me she couldn't understand it all, but she used to like to read it. Sometimes she would criticize me a little bit. She didn't like it that I talked about certain things that she thought were private. Certainly if I talked about my relationships or anything about my sex life, oh my God, why was I doing that? And my finances, she didn't like me talking about that. And then sometimes she would just say, oh, Anthony, it's just so deep, I just don't understand it. But I would always tell, oh, Mom, I'm just really happy that you read it. I'm just really honored. So I am going to call the spirit of Gilda here today. I know that Gilda is right here with us now, listening. Nice to have you here, Mom, and happy Mother's Day. Okay, talk for today. Heal the sick, raise the dead. Those 6 words mean a lot to me, and maybe they mean a lot to a lot of people. So they mean a lot to me because they're very early on in A Course in Miracles, and the very first time I opened the book, and within the first 10 or 15 minutes of reading it, I came across miracle principle number 24, which was miracles enable man to heal the sick and raise the dead because he made sickness and death himself and can abolish both. And that statement, that bold, audacious statement made by Jesus so early in the book stopped me dead in my tracks, which I could also say means it stopped death in its tracks. This idea that we were going to master death itself was just really impressive to me, that this book was impressive to make such a bold claim. Now, as I said, these 6 words, heal the sick, raise the dead, they're actually in the Bible as well. The Bible says, and this is in Matthew, says, heal the sick, raise the dead, cleanse those with leprosy, drive out demons. Freely you received, freely give. So that's in Matthew chapter 10, verse 8. And, I love that. I love that Jesus is healing the sick and raising the dead, but he's telling us in the Bible to heal the sick and raise the dead, to cleanse the lepers. That was the big scourge of the day in his time. Drive out demons, which was also a big thing. I would think in today's vernacular it would be heal those with mental health challenges who are tortured by voices in their minds that cause them to excessively fear or be angry. And then he says, freely you receive, so freely give. So Jesus wants us to be quite free about this. This isn't a reserved thing to hold back on. He wants us to go out there and truly do this. There are, I believe, 7 different instances reported in the Bible where Jesus raised somebody from the dead. And then I think there are 2 instances later in the Bible where Peter, the Apostle Peter, raised somebody from the dead. So not only was Jesus raising from the dead, but his apostles, then at least Peter, had taken on that mission and did it as well. So the disciples were doing it, and Jesus, in A Course in Miracles, asked us to be his disciple. So this raising the dead idea isn't just something that's reserved for Jesus. It's something that we have to entertain as well. And we have to do it freely, liberally, not in a reserved way, but in a bold, free way. Course in Miracles says this. It says, the sick are healed as you let go all thoughts of sickness, and the dead arise when you let thoughts of life replace all thoughts you ever held of death. So I included this quotation especially because I want everybody to know that I understand that when the Course is talking about healing the sick and raising the dead, it's talking about us healing our thoughts. I understand that. Our thoughts, because it's our thoughts that are manifesting images of sickness and images of death. So we may talk about healing the sick and raising the dead of, people that appear out there in the external world, but it goes without saying, I think, that we, of Course in Miracles students, know that we're healing our minds. And when we heal our minds, the reflection of our minds, which is the physical world, is going to heal automatically because the world is a mirror for our minds. So, people will, Course in Miracles students will tend to kind of criticize me a lot when I talk about healing because they think I'm focusing on the world. But I just know as a ground of being that the world's a projection of my mind. But I don't have to say that each and every time I talk about healing the sick or maybe raising the dead. It kind of goes without saying. And I'm going to put that out there today too as just some advice for us Course in Miracles students. Know that we all do know this at some level, and maybe we don't have to continually be alert to people who are talking about healing the sick and raising the dead if they don't mention that they're doing it within their minds, and certainly don't pounce on them and tell them how wrong they are. It goes without saying that A Course in Miracles students are at least entertaining the idea that everything that's out there in the world is an effect of what is going on in our minds. Back up here a little bit and talk about memes. Okay, what's the meme? A meme, definition of a meme is an image, video, or piece of text, etc., that is copied and spread rapidly. And then it says by internet users. Okay, but I want you to know that the first time I heard the word meme, it had nothing to do with the internet. It was just phrases. It was like phrases that were getting repeated in society so much that they kind of developed a life of their own. So I think A Course in Miracles is full of little memes. They're certain often repeated phrases, and these phrases pick up an energy because of all the people using them, and perhaps they had a certain energy coming into the plane as well. Don't know that, but what I do know is that when I read them, I feel something beyond them that's almost like a life force in and of itself that is beyond the pure meaning of the words. And I think these little phrases that have this spin of their own are very useful teaching tools. And so I will use them on and off in lectures or sermons or talks that I give. And so you've heard me say many of these things. The celestial speed up. I think the celestial speed up is one of those memes that enough people have thought about and read and repeated that take on a certain life of their own, a certain energetic spin. And so when you say them, people can connect with it beyond just the words, and they connect to the energetic truth of them somehow. Mighty companions is another one. We can say mighty companions, and it just brings to mind something that is useful in teaching. The Great Awakening is another one. I love that one. I love the slogan for the Great Crusade, which is listen, learn, and do. We can repeat that one, listen, learn, and do. That one seems to me to have a little life of its own. Another one, maybe one of the first ones that I ever really connected to, was this simple phrase from the workbook, which was, perhaps today, perhaps tomorrow. Perhaps today, perhaps tomorrow. When are we going to truly realize the full extent of the teaching and the benefit of A Course in Miracles if we feel that we're not doing that right at this moment? Well, perhaps today, perhaps tomorrow. And that is a wonderful little meme to remember. So I think heal the sick, raise the dead, again, is another one of those wonderful little memes that maybe we could just remember and use from time to time. Maybe use a whole lot more frequently than we do because it connects us to something and it has a force of its own. Actually, I'm going to make the dedication that I'm going to use it whenever I get the opportunity to. Like, if somebody asks me, what are you doing today? I'm going to say, healing the sick, raising the dead. How about you? Just put it out there. I like that. I remember that as, that's my mission. That's all of our missions. What are we here to do? We're here to heal the sick and raise the dead. Some people think, well, we're here to know that we're one with God. And I don't really know about that. I think we have to know that we're one with God, but we have to know that in order to heal the sick, raise the dead, because from knowing that we're one with God, that's what we do automatically. But I think we're here to fulfill our mission. And I don't think our mission is to know we're one with God. I think our mission here in this world, while we perceive ourselves to be in this world, is to heal the sick and raise the dead. That's our mission. So when I was thinking about mission, I was remembering the old television show, Mission Impossible. I'm sure many of you remember Mission Impossible. I'm not talking about the Tom Cruise movies. There's a new one coming out soon, which are great movies. I'm talking about the Mission Impossible television show, which aired from 1966 to 1973. And if you remember, the Mission Impossible television show was very popular. It always started with Mr. Phelps listening to a recording. And so the recording would tell him this elaborate spy mission. And at the end of the recording, the voice on the tape would say, your mission, if you should decide to accept it. And then it would give him the mission, and then the tape would self-destruct. Did you notice that he always accepted the mission? He never rejected it. But if you wanted to translate that into A Course in Miracles terms, it would be more like your mission when you decide to accept it is to heal the sick and raise the dead. So it's not a matter of if, it's actually just a matter of when. And we accept this mission, just like Mr. Phelps always accepted the missions. We accept the mission, and the mission is healing the sick and raising the dead. Raising the dead should always be held as mission possible. Not mission impossible, mission possible. It must be possible. And I guess that's what I'm challenging people with today, to not put this off as something that is impossible. We're Mr. Phelps. We're going to accept this as mission possible. We're going to embrace it. This is our mission. Heal the sick, raise the dead. The Bible actually contains 7 stories where Jesus healed, raised the dead. And then there were, I think, 2 times when the Apostle Peter raised a dead person or brought a dead person back to life. So it wasn't just Jesus doing it. It was obviously a demonstration here that his disciples took on that mission. And Jesus tells us in A Course in Miracles that we're his disciples. So raising the dead isn't something reserved for Jesus. It's something that we're all supposed to be embracing. The very first story in the Bible about Jesus raising the dead was Jesus going into the city of Nain. I think that's how you pronounce it. And there was a dead child, a young man, I believe, being let out on a bed, and he was the son of a widow, which means the woman had, the mother, it's Mother's Day, the mother had lost her husband and lost her son. And Jesus brought the son back to life and gave the son back to the mother. And this story is told in Luke chapter 7. And I've got a little image here of this story. It's a great image from a wonderful stained glass window. Okay, so there it is. There's Jesus raising the son back to life and giving the son back to the mother. I love these old religious images. They remind me of my youth. I mean, some people criticize them for whatever reason, but they remind me of something that I definitely connect with. So Jesus raising the son back to life, giving the son back to his mother. What a great gift for Mother's Day, and a great image. The mother thought she was alone, and now she had her son back. Okay. So, a lot of people like to relate to the whole raising the dead thing as a metaphor. You know, you hear this and you hear me criticize this a lot. But there's nothing in A Course in Miracles that would indicate that this is a symbolic thing. And there's everything to indicate that Jesus actually means it. Some people would say it's an allegory, which is a story that has symbolic meaning. But Jesus addresses this directly in A Course in Miracles, and it was again in that reading that Reverend Paula read. And Jesus was talking about how people interpret things in the Bible. And Jesus mentions that it almost seems interesting to him, maybe even amusing to him, that the negative imagery that's in the Bible people take literally, where the positive imagery they relate to as an allegory, a story with symbolic meaning. And it was this quote, and again, Paula read it. It says, "Thus, hellfire means burning, but raising the dead becomes allegorical. Actually, it is particularly the references to the outcomes of love which should be taken literally, because the Bible is about love, being about God." So there's Jesus very directly telling us not to take the stories about raising the dead as allegories, as symbolic stories, not to take them as metaphors. They are literal events, and he is calling his disciples, and we are his disciples, to perform these same literal acts that he performed, because they're the results of love. And love is of God, and love is what is real. Okay, so I do want to say that I have not had any experiences of raising the dead yet. At least not that I remember. And I got the question asked, would I remember them? Well, you would think you would, but maybe they'd be so traumatic or so startling that you'd have hysterical amnesia about them. Or maybe you remembered them, but that branch of your reality is over here, and right now we're off on another branch of our reality. So I just want to open up the possibility that we all have raised the dead, in some level, on some branch of reality somewhere. and that maybe we could stop denying that we have. The other thing I want to say about it is, for me right now, the important thing is to be open to being called upon to raise the dead. I'm open to the guidance from the Holy Spirit. And as of yet, I don't remember hearing that guidance yet. But am I open to it? Am I willing to do it if I am called to do it? And I think the answer to that actually is yes. Yes, I think I am. One of the things I think we need to be aware of is the qualifiers we put on the statements. So people hear, heal the sick and raise the dead, and they immediately go to the but. Heal the sick, raise the dead. But of course, that doesn't mean actually tell dead people to rise and live again. And then they just go on. But they always, or they, a great default one is, okay, heal the sick, raise the dead, but I'm just not ready to do that yet. Well, maybe we could just start by letting go of the qualifiers. Start by letting go of the buts. As I've talked about on and off, great teaching by the famous African-American minister from the 70s, Reverend Ike. He said, get your big fat butt out of the way. So, stop saying but. Just let it sit there. Heal the sick, raise the dead. Yeah, I'm ready. I'm ready when Holy Spirit tells me to do it. I'll be willing. Start affirming that. Let go of this idea that this is certainly not something for you, or that it's all symbolic or allegorical, or that, maybe someday or some lifetime, but certainly not today and not this lifetime. So get the butts out of the way. And as I said, I think I'm there. I think I'm ready to get that guidance, and I don't think I'll be particularly startled when I do get that guidance. Okay. One of the things that I remember is in January of 2022, when I had my ER experience, when I had COVID, and I went to the ER seeking a treatment that I was told they had there. And then I was told by the ER doctor with great authority, and he prefaced what he was telling me by telling me how much of an expert he was in this. And he told me he thought I wasn't going to live. His exact words were, I don't think you're going to make it. And, that was something to hear. And that was startling. I didn't expect the doctor to tell me that. But what wasn't startling was my guidance on how to deal with that. I was not startled at all by my guidance to reject his prognosis. I was not startled at all by my guidance to reject the treatment, which was that he was suggesting, which was checking into the hospital, being put on remdesivir, and agreeing to mechanical lung ventilation. He was pushing it pretty heavy. But I wasn't startled at all by just the knowing that I wasn't going to do that, regardless of anything that any doctor or anybody told me. And he brought in another doctor to also try to convince me. But I never wavered in my conviction to follow my guidance, and my guidance was get out of that emergency room as quickly as I could. Now, I was keenly aware of everything that was going on. I was aware that this is one of those pivotal moments in my life, and everything was in very sharp focus. After all, I had never been given a terminal diagnosis by a medical professional before, and this was an important moment. But in that important moment, I felt totally connected with the divine, totally connected with the Holy Spirit, and totally sure about what I was going to do. And certainly I was sure what I was not going to do. And I wasn't going to check into the hospital, and I wasn't going to agree to be put on remdesivir, and I wasn't going to agree to have mechanical lung ventilation. And I was not in panic at all, and I was, while keenly aware, quite calm through the whole thing. Jesus tells us in A Course in Miracles, he says, I raise the dead by knowing that life is an eternal attribute of everything that the living God created. Okay, life is an eternal attribute of everything that the living God created. Well, I know that. Don't we all know that? I think we all know that, or at least I think we all know that. So we've already done the heavy lifting. We've already got the ground of being where we need to be, where healing the sick and raising the dead can come from. So all we are doing now is waiting for the job order from the boss. We're just waiting for the job order. And I haven't raised the dead yet. But perhaps today, perhaps tomorrow. One of my favorite memes from A Course in Miracles. Perhaps today, perhaps tomorrow. So I'm just going to end with thanking my mom for being here today on Mother's Day. Gilda, so glad you're here. I didn't talk about sex or finances, Mom, so hopefully you're happy. I know it may have been a little deep for you, but I'm just so glad you're here with me this Mother's Day. Okay, thank you, everybody. That's my talk for today.
See, the reason why we were so afraid is quite apparent as we witness the destruction we have made. We nod to heaven